Perfect. That one was far more seamless than other ones. I actually managed to, in those 2 minutes, do everything. So it's perfect.
What did that entail? Doing the washing, doing chores around the house?
Yeah, I had to comb my hair again, comb my beard again. Yeah. Cool. So I've confirmed we're live on X. We're live on YouTube. And we're also live on my Twitch, which has 0 followers and 0 views. So we'll see what happens there.
Maybe it'll get one today.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. We'll see. Awesome. So those that are watching, those that are listening afterwards, you don't know me. I'm Dan. I'm the developer advocate at roadmap.sh, number 7 on GitHub, open source, free developer roadmap platform. Loved around the world. And I'm joined here by Jhey. Jhey, do you want to give yourself, without us digging too deep right now, do you want to just tell me who you are today and what you're doing professionally today?
Right now, so I am Jhey Tompkins, and right now I am a DX engineer at Vercel.
DX engineer being developer experience engineer.
Yeah, developer experience engineering. So it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of like a DevRel type dev ed kind of role, but I'm more on the engineering of the experience side, I guess. So like the UI that you see for like when you go to like Vercel docs or something like that is stuff I tinker around with. So
okay, that's cool. I mean, there is a lot of people don't understand anything. I think a lot of people still don't really understand the whole DevRel department as it is anyway. But there is different tranches, isn't there? There is one that's much more marketing side.
Yeah.
There's one that's much more community side, and there's one that is actually engineering.
It has different streams for sure. I think like everyone has a different idea of how it looks. That's why it's really hard to be like, engineer is I build thing. DevRel is you could be building stuff, you could be. So I think DX is probably a better thing for where I sit, because it's like kind of like I do more engineering, but then we have stuff that's like, we obviously see what people say online, or like, oh, I can find my answer for this or something, and you work with them to be like, oh, is this better? Like fix things up, and it all feeds around. So it's kind of like DevRel in a way, really. It's just not as like, I don't go around the world speaking at conferences all the time anymore. It's that kind of difference. So
you have in the past, haven't you? The board behind you tells stories.
Yeah, the board behind does tell the story. That was like a lot of events in 2022, maybe like 15 across 12 months or something, 13 months. And then I really was like, no, this isn't for me anymore. So I did one in 2023, which was CSS Day. Oh no, I did a couple in 2023, actually, the last one being CSS Day. And I was like, right, that's it. I'm taking a break from these. And then I spoke at Config in last month. No, the month before last now, because we're in August.
and then I've pretty much scammed you into doing one now, technically.
Kind of.
Kind of.
This is fine. I don't have to leave anywhere or prep anything or travel around the world. It's kind of all right. I haven't done one of these for a long time, though, to be fair. Like, a long time.
Well, people are already calling out for you. The CSS GOAT.
That's debatable.
Well, let's get into that then. So, first of all, the accent tells the story. You are from the UK,
which surprises a lot of people.
I mean, it kind of surprised me, to be honest. And I think for me, it was a combination of working at Vercel and having a very large following on Twitter, which to me didn't feel very British. I'm not sure why. Usually you'd expect these, from an outsider point of view, when you look at it, I don't know, it was just very much, it didn't feel.
I used to get, so one that always sticks out to me is one where I was in Berlin and I was at a Google Developer Expert Summit, and I usually get like pipped as a designer, based on like what I'd be wearing, which I guess is a compliment. But it would normally be like, all black, like, and they were like, oh, I thought you're a designer. I thought you're a designer. And then the other one is always think I'm from the West Coast because, yeah, I guess I just fall in with that crowd. And my wife is from the West Coast, and I spend a lot of time in Seattle and the Midwest. So it's like, oh, we just assume you're from there.
Well, I mean, the West Coast of the US and the West Coast of England are two very different things. So I assume you mean, I assume you mean West Coast US, not a West Country farmer from the UK.
Yeah, so yeah, Seattle way, mainly Seattle because that's where my wife resided before she moved here. We spent a lot of time there, and she had a brief moment in Berlin before coming here. So.
So you took her out of the West Coast and brought her to Bedford.
Well, she wanted to come to Europe. It just the stars aligned on that one. That's a whole nother story. If we did roadmap for how your life pans out, I mean, I only met my wife because I spoke at a conference, which came about through Twitch streaming, and then my wife spoke after me. Spoke before me at the event. And I sat next to her the whole time, never spoke to her. Spoke to her on the train from Leeds to London, said, see ya. And, 2 years later, we're married and it's kind of wild.
Wow, that can definitely be another stream. Jhey Tompkins, Finding Love in Tech.
Yeah, just by chance, just really strange turn of events there. She was moving role happened to be to come to Europe, which was something she always wanted to do, and then the stars have all just kind of like done their magic, and now we're both here and we both in roles that we really like and allow us to do it. It's kind of a weird
living the dream. Well,
don't give up, just keep going. You never know what's around the corner.
That's it. End stream. Just don't give up. Let's find out how you got to be living the dream, right? We'll rewind time a little bit and we'll hit education, because you did hint before we went live that education, some people breeze over education, not that important. Usually they don't really care about it. They find out what they want to do after education. But you hinted that education was pretty important in what you've been doing now. Yeah,
pretty key for me. Also, living the dream, very subjective, but we can come back to that another time. Maybe we just pump another few streams out of this. But education is super important because there are some points in education that I think of that really changed my path, shall we say. So in the UK, as you know, you do GCSEs and then you probably go on to A levels and things if you want. I did them because my parents, especially my mum, would always push just stay in education for as long as you can until you sort of got an idea of what you want to do. So I did that. But at the time, around then, I was just super into getting out on my BMX and just being in the skate park all the time.
I feel that, yeah.
All that kind of that was my life pretty much. Had no idea about computers at all. Didn't have a computer, so I think we had a desktop around my A levels that I would write an essay on and maybe edit a video of BMX, and that would be about it. But when they did the ratifications for A levels for you to go to university, I picked out universities and then they graded they did the ratification wrong, so it looked like I didn't get the grades, and it meant that I didn't get my choice to go where I wanted to go. And I was like, well, I'm not that fussed then. That was where I want. I'm kind of all or nothing. I want that, or it's I'm not that bothered. So my teacher at the time genuinely chased the car as we drove away and was like, stop. They haven't done it. So I had to go through this whole process to get me to London, which is I was at King's College to do computer science, which wasn't even a choice I wanted to do, which is kind of weird. So doing my A levels, I was doing math, physics, IT, and I think graphic design or something. And they were I wanted to be an architect. That was kind of my thing for some reason. I was I'll be an architect. That pays well, I don't know.
Yeah.
And they basically said, like, I don't know if that's going to happen for you. Like, your math isn't quite there to get you like into that like area. And I was like, okay, well, what else could I do? And then my IT teacher used to be like, you should just do computer science, you know? And bearing in mind, when you do like IT, I'm sure, you know, like you're just doing like, here's how to use Excel, here's how to like set a font in Word or something, you know, like you're not really doing computer science, you're doing like basic IT, like computer usage. So I was like, fine, I'll do computer science, we'll try it. Like I get to go to King's College in London, which is nice because it's right next to South Bank, so I can take my bike. Like that, you know, there's the motive for you. Like there's a skate park nearby, that'll be great. Go there, absolutely hate it. Like can't like love the fact I'm in London, going to a great college or whatever, but can't stand the subject. Doesn't go in my head. Just can't work. Just can't get my head around it. Like I'm looking at like tautologies and like binary tree and all this, and I'm like, what? It's just like hitting a brick wall, right? It's not happening for me. Like I can't. The first term, I'm like, do I just give up? Do I just go do something else? Like I stuck with it, and then I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden I just sort of like decided that I was going to stop actually physically going to the lectures, and I was just going to get all of my lecture notes way in advance, and then I was just going to study it myself on my own time, and then turn up when I needed to like clarification around something. So I was like, I'm just going to give it my all and see what happens. And something just clicked for me, and then all of a sudden I loved it. And I don't know what that was, like what happened, but all of a sudden it was like, okay, like I'm just rolling on my own time here, learning it all on my own, and then coming in for clarity around something. And I'd just turn up, you know, every now and then go to the exams. Probably not the best way, you know, best thing to advertise to people, but it worked for me.
It worked.
And then as soon as I got into, because like the first year you do that kind of stuff, you don't really touch much like creative coding, so to speak. Like you don't really get your hands on anything great, especially when I was doing like started with Java and it's all on the command line and you're writing, you know, system print line or whatever. And then the first thing I remember is that they give us like this opportunity to create a text-based game. And for me, it was like, I'm going to do like Grand Theft Auto, but the text-based version. And then, you know, you spent hours on this thing, like through the night being like, oh, this is going to be so cool. Like you're going to steal the ice cream van and you're going to get the rocket launcher, do this stuff, submit it all on a CD. Off it goes. Like, and I don't know, something about that got me hooked in. And then as soon as we started doing any sort of UI, like click a button, see something happen, I was in. I was like, this is it for me now. And then through college, I just adopted that same process all the way through. And I was like, I'll just, like, I love the engineering side of it, like the building the thing, seeing something and just being like, I can do whatever I want with it. And actually, it's kind of funny, like the theory, the writing side, even though I've gone on to do those kind of like writing sides of things or like the content side of things. But through college, it used to be that my mates would be like, we'll do all the writing if you do the engineering, which is what happened. So when I went and did a master's in, because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do at the end of my bachelor's. So it got to the end of my bachelor's, I was like, right, I'm just going to become a consultant. I still hadn't really learned into this idea of like, I could be an engineer. That's for me. I'd still had this idea, this vision in my head that I was going to be like some high-flying guy in a suit, rolling around, you know, just consulting and cashing checks.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like that was my vision, I guess. I hadn't really like found out who I was yet.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so my parents were like, right, why don't you just do another 12 months, right? Do another 12 months, see where it takes you, like mix it up a bit. So I did financial systems engineering. So it was like a mix of like finance, how to do everything in stocks and things and like that side of stuff as well as engineering. And then it became more and more emphasized that like, yeah, kind of like this code thing, because like we were getting projects and it'd be like, I'll do all the code, you lot just do the writing. And it was going more like that. And then by chance, and this is when I picked up like C# along this road as well. I built in my undergrad, we're kind of dipping around here, but in my undergrad, I built a social networking tool for like heritage and tourism, which was like based around the National Trust. Just built it, like just bought a book built the whole thing. Just spent most days like, right, where are we today in the C#.NET book? And yeah, just built this whole like thing. And when I presented it, it was all over LAN, and people could like, comment, share, and it was real time. It was pretty cool. But like one of the things that sticks out to me is like the styling at the time was done in Visual Studio. So it was like, select a color for this button for the drop down. And I didn't know what CSS was. So I was just like, select orange. That's great. Yeah, off it goes. Now, years later, I think about it and I'm like, damn, I was just setting like button color via a drop down. I had no idea that would be like a realm I really went into. But yeah, did the masters. And then out of the presentation for that, I kind of lucked out because I didn't realize it at the time. But when I did my final presentation, some more people were in the room than expected. And they sort of talked me up after and said, oh, do you fancy coming and like seeing what we're up to in like Edinburgh and stuff? And I was like, yeah, just naively like, yeah, cool, I'll come. And I didn't realize, that was literally you're going to come work for us kind of thing. Like it was like an interview, basically. I joined there, worked for them. They were actually a really great bunch, but it's like a startup around cloud-based technologies, but it just didn't go into my head. It felt like first term again. Like
was this the CloudSoft Corporation, was it?
Yeah, like, and it was I say it was good, but it's like, it is a great role for me in the sense that like it was a baptism, I guess, of getting into this industry, but sort of still not really knowing what I was up to. And especially in that domain, it really highlighted that like it was just like just going over my head. Like I was looking at this stuff and being like, yeah, I still don't get it. And it's like almost a year later, and I'm like, I still don't get it. Like, what am I doing? Like, and yeah, that came to an end. But during that role, I mean, I say I don't get it. I didn't get. There are obviously parts I did get, and I was obviously able to, submit things and get stuff pushed in. But a lot of it was like, I don't know. It was quite intense, I guess, for my level. I probably wasn't at that level yet. I hadn't really found my feet or like my love for it. I was still very much get to 5 o'clock, clock off, see you tomorrow kind of thing. And but during that time, someone else that was there was working on like front end stuff, and I was just sort of doing a bit of shoulder surfing, and they were doing stuff in browser tools, like dev tools, like inspecting the DOM and being like, look, if I do this, then I can inspect it and see what's actually happening in real time. And this literally just like took me by like complete like amazement, because I hadn't seen anything like this yet. Like no one had shown me that kind of thing. So I was like, wait, so I can just like open a file, make some changes, see it in instantly. My experience up to then had been like, right, you need to run the compiler in some big old IDE like IntelliJ or like Eclipse, and then you run it and then you can see it, and every time you make a change you gotta like build it again, or and now you're telling me I can do something and see it instantly and there's no process. And like that to me was like a complete game changer, because I was like, wow, I can just start building stuff. So I somehow went from that role and then sort of kind of picked up this JavaScript thing. And then, next minute, I think I did like a really short role between there and my first like proper front end job. And then that was it. Like I was hooked. Like, and that was my intro to like jQuery UI, all that kind of stuff, and like understanding how classes worked. And like I come from a very like that side of non-visual to being like understanding how to build things, and then it's gone like more and more the visual way as I've gone on. So yeah, it was kind of like it wasn't planned at all. It just sort of like ended up falling into this silo.
So I'm definitely seeing like a pattern here in the whole you essentially adapted your education to work for you.
Yeah, yes.
You did it your own way by like, it wasn't doing it how they were telling you to do. It wasn't working. doing it how you wanted to worked. Now I'm almost seeing this in the early career as well, because it was like a couple of permanent jobs. Then you found front end, and then contracting happened.
Well, that is that happened in a weird way, actually. So that's like another epiphany moment. And I'd say actually that epiphany moment is what changed my career completely and made me sort of like get to where I am now. So if we ignore the whole starting with Java, sort of finding front end, but still kind of almost still being in that place of like, it's just my job or whatever, you know, it helps pay my bills so I can go to football training, soccer training, which is essentially what I did, you know, like after that first, like, so I think I did like a temp role or something. And then I got into my first like proper front end role, which I absolutely loved. It was so good. And I guess the other thing to say there is like my roles had been all remote. So this one was one of the only ones I did on site, this first one, and had a really cool team. And, you know, they were very much like, it was very good in the sense that everyone was like, right, let's all like learn this stuff together, you know, make sure everyone sort of knows what they're up to. Everyone's on the same path. There's a lot of like encouragement to try out new stuff, try new things. And it was just, yeah, it was really good. But what unfortunately happened was some of the team left, you know, and it just didn't have the same vibe anymore. And it was like, right, well, what do we do? And it's actually a real shame because that company was, or still is, predominantly an American company. But I got to, that was the first way I got to go to the States was actually through that. And I was doing like on-site training for this UI piece I'd built, which would run on a modem with like about a meg of storage. So like you had to create this modem interface for on-field engineers and like these kind of restrictions. It was kind of fascinating at the time because like my JavaScript was okay for that level, but like I hadn't really done a lot of visual, and that kind of started getting me into more visual stuff. But anyway, that team dispersed, and then I found a new role, and I was like, this is it, you know, like I've made it. Now I'm at a big company and I've got this sweet role and it's like, it's going to be great. And within 3 months, I was like, no, like this is not me.
Yeah.
Like I hate this. And it really made me question everything. And remote wasn't really a thing as much, I guess, then. So it was like, well, what are you going to do? Like, you're going to have to either suck it up and take a big pay cut to work local on something maybe you don't want to work on as much, or like you're going to have to try something else. And that was when I was like, right, well, I'm just going to go contracting and hope something happens. And I didn't work for months. Like I incorporated a company and didn't have any work for like, say, at least a quarter. And then part of that was like, I'm not just going to buckle because like I need cash, you know, I'm just going to do things I want to do. So like, for example, I went and did some on-site stuff in London, and I just was like, I'm not traveling every day. Like, you don't need me here. So I was just like, see ya. If you don't like it like that. And it sounds kind of harsh, but like, I don't know. I'm a big believer in if you don't put your foot down, you're never going to get truly what you want. And it sounds very like, I don't know, maverick and a bit like nonchalant or a bit careless, but like I was only having to look after me. You know, I don't have any kids or anything yet. So it's like there was nothing. All I had to worry about is paying my bills and rent. And if I can live very frugally, I will. So I was just like, I did one contract, and the terms in the contract were like, you know, you can do where you want, wherever's suitable. And there was a dispute over like, well, you're not. You need you to be here all the time. So I said, well, I won't be here tomorrow then. If you don't, that was that. And it was like
that contractor mindset.
Yeah. And it was just like, okay, well, I'll put my foot down, and that's it. And it's paid off massively, you know, because everything, opportunities always come. And I think like contracting is a really, there used to be a thing that went around loads where people were like, I don't think I can freelance because I won't get any clients. But it's like that whole chicken and egg. Like if you don't try it, you'll never get any clients because you never threw yourself in there. And I think it's one of the best things I ever did, because there's two like massive things you get from it, which is like you accelerate your learning like exponentially, because you go from different things and you see so many different like setups and so many people doing things in different ways. So like 1 minute you're like, right, I need to really skill up on Angular JS here because like no one, like I've not seen it before. I've been like, you know, it was the way I got into React so early, because I picked up a contract and they were like, right, we're doing it in React, and it was like, sweet. I got into React at like 0.1, and it was like, sweet, I'm like ahead of the curve here. I'm already involved with it. And that was like a really good way to level up. But the other side of it is you get really good at not being so afraid of like being out of work, which takes time to learn. And it can be like pretty daunting. And I actually almost like got a bit like it last year, and I had to think, no, remember when you contracted, you were fine. Like, why are you being like this? So it was like, yeah, it's kind of, you pick up some good skills from it, I'd say. Like, but mainly the greatest one is you just accelerate your learning like exponentially. And especially if you get like more into it and you want to learn more, like that, there's like a perfect combo. Like that's kind of what happened as I hit contract, and I was getting really into the idea of learning all these things. So it was just perfect for me, because I'd be like, right, I've learned this, or I'd see things on a contract and be like, I'll just apply anyway. Because there's a good thing with contracting as well, that people like, yes, people can let you go quick, but also there's less risk for them when they hire. So like they're more inclined to hire you quickly, right? Like it's not like you don't have to go through 6 weeks of vetting or something to get in. Like you might have to do a check sometimes, but like people are more willing to hire, because if they hire you and it doesn't work out, you're probably on a 1-day notice, so they get someone else. So it's like kind of a good way to throw yourself in the deep end and be like, I can do it, and you'll find out if you can or not. And if you can't, well, you don't get paid. So it's a pretty good incentive.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a few things that you've said, like from experience, like I don't know the percentage exactly, but a majority of contractors have been significantly more skilled than the perms, typically. Like one of my main mentor that like took me through my whole like DevOps career was a contractor through and through. I swore he'd never go perm again. Eventually did. Yeah.
I wasn't going to.
Yeah.
And then there's like two other areas to this, which is like, I didn't want to, but it was the easiest way for me to buy my house. So I joined a company thinking I'll just join for a moment. It'll be easy to get the paperwork done, but I actually loved it, so I ended up staying. And
Which
that
company
was
is this?
Nearform. They're still great, I'm sure. I still know people that, funny enough, actually, yeah. So there's people I still stay in touch with that I know work there, or I think some of them have left now, but like I still know people that are in touch there. And then funny enough, when I joined Vercel, there's actually someone that used to work at Nearform at Vercel. So it's like, oh, hey, like we meet again. So it's like, yeah, it's kind of, but I think one of the things that I loved about working there is it was very much like, so for me, I struggle to like, I think what appeals with contracting is that like it's forever changing, right? So like you can work on something for 3 months, go work something else for 6 months, do something for 12, you know, and that works really well for me, because I need stuff to like challenge me, to keep me going. Like if I was just working on the same project for 10 years, it's probably gonna struggle with that. Some people can do it. I'm not really one of them. Like I have to have little challenges, things to like. That's probably why I do so much like content stuff on the site, 'cause I love the little challenges. You know, it's like my mental Sudoku side of things. So that company was like, you know, you have different clients, you'll get put on a project for X amount of months, whatever, and then you might get shifted to something else. And that was so good for me, because like you're with a team. It's like an agency, right? You're with a team of your buddies, but then you're like, hey, we're going to go work on client X for a while. Hey, we're going to go work on client Y with some different people. And that, like, I absolutely loved that. It was so good for me. Like, but then after that, I was like, right, in my wisdom, I was like, right, I'm going to switch back out. I'm going to go back and try and do my own thing, which kind of failed miserably at, and didn't really work out how I wanted it to start with. And I spent a long time being like, did I do the right thing here? Should I stay? Should I not? But I think in this life, you've really got to go with your gut. And if your gut tells you something, you should just follow it, because it normally pans out for you, or it has some plan down the road for you. So I did that. And I actually ended up eventually getting back to the contracting side of things, and I ended up working on some really cool contracts. Did some like, I think I did like some AR stuff, and then I worked at Monzo for a while, which was really cool.
Hey, I love Monzo, multiple bank accounts for them.
Yeah, like that was a really nice, like really cool project to work on. Like I really like working on that stuff. It's just interesting, because it has like a bit of a finance background to like obviously what stuff I'd like seen before. And then I got to the end of a Monzo contract, and I was like, right, that's it. I'm going to take 6 months out and just chill for a bit and do whatever I'm going to do. And then it was like, I'd always said, right, I'm never going permanent again unless like it's for one of the big ones, you know, like a Google or an Amazon or something. And then
funny that
they all come along at once. So, so I got into Amazon, and then I happened to get into Google at the same time. And then I was like, which one do I go with? And I was like, right, I'm going to go, because a lot of people had sort of said, oh, that, you know, the role at Google would be perfect, because it was working on CSS and UI as a dev role. And it was like, well, I've not done that before. Maybe it'll suit me really well. Now, that was tough for me. I think in my head, I think the role was probably like, sounds really good for me on paper, but I think in reality it was the lines were probably a bit too blurred for me in terms of like what I do outside and then inside, and it's quite an exhausting thing to do to yourself, I think. Like, and I think I struggled with that, and I found that it wasn't really for me. And then like the rate of which specs move and stuff, and just, I don't know, like it's for some. I don't think it's for me at this time. Oh gosh, my camera's just decided to do something. Let's give that an on and off, see what happens. It's all right, I've got it plugged into a cam link. Don't know what's happened there. Let's have a go. Oh, that's awkward. Is it going to come back on?
It's not errored.
Yeah, I will keep speaking anyway. Is it going to turn on again? Oh, here we go. I can hear the sensor going. Here we go.
There we go.
There we go. We're back. We're back in the room. So yeah. So like when I left, that was really tough for me. I found that super tough, because I think at the time when I joined, I was like, this is it. This is my forever role. You know, this is the thing I want to do. And then it wasn't. Like and after leaving, that was incredibly hard for me. Like, so I've suffered with like anxiety and depression pretty bad before, and I was pretty much over it, but like that brought it back pretty badly the few months after that. And it's kind of weird, because it's like self-inflicted, but it's almost like grieving, because you're like, this was it, this was my thing, and it wasn't. So it's like,
funny you mentioned that, because you hit that earlier in the career, didn't you, as well, where like you went somewhere, and I wanted to point something out, because like, the camera's gone again, but it's fine, because I'll talk while that's
I'll sort it out.
I did a similar thing. Like, I put Circle CI on a pedestal, and when I got there, it was just the same as everywhere else, and it had the same problems as everywhere else. And I feel like a lot of people, like you said yourself, you got quite affected by it. Like a lot of people put these big companies on a pedestal, and then they get there and they realize, oh, my life hasn't changed. In fact,
Yeah.
now I've got significantly more pressure, actually. And then the pressure equals burnout, and then you don't enjoy it, and then you end up thinking, well, in your case, I'm at Google. Google's the epitome in most developers' eyes. Like, being at Google is the peak, but it's not always the case, is it?
And that's yeah, I think that's the problem. I've got overheated camera. So I just see someone's message.
Yeah.
I think that it keeps saying high temp, and I've not set the camera up properly. I've never had that issue come up, but we currently have some sort of heat wave in the
Yeah,
UK.
I've got a huge fan under the desk right now, blasting.
Yeah, I've got another camera I can switch to if need be. It just won't look as nice. But yeah, I think yeah, exactly that. Like, you nailed it. Like, and the other side of it as well with Google is, like, when you leave something like that, you get a lot of people going, "Why are you doing that? You're doing the wrong thing." And it's like, that also is not fun to be on the end of. So yeah, I think after that I was like, and yeah, I never actually thought of it like that. Actually, it's funny because I've never thought of the correlation between earlier in life and that one, and they're quite similar when you say it like that. So yeah, I ducked out of there, and then it was like, well, what do I do? What do I do? Do I just contract and be happy with that? And it took me ages to really think about what I wanted. I had a few more conferences that I had to finish up, and that was also a bit odd. Yeah, let's switch to the other camera. I don't know what the overheating setting is, so I obviously need to set that. Oh wow, the exposure on that is interesting.
That is bright. You're looking very British right now.
Let's maybe change that. Right. I just need camera hub. Yeah, that is way too bright. All right, layout. All right, camera hub open.
I think something that you can probably talk about while you're doing that is, we've talked a lot about how you went between things quite nicely, and you mentioned how a big thing for you was contracting. I get to go to a new place and there's new skills. What I would imagine at some point you had a sort of rough process to how you upskilled.
It's very much throw myself in the deep end and hope for the best.
Okay, a lot of baptism by fire.
Yeah, that is that's honestly the best way I've found it, and that's something I think it's very hard for people to do potentially, but also it's one of those. It's the quickest way to learn, and you also like pick up, like you improve that skill of learning, should we say, and then it becomes less and less of a thing you fear doing. So I think like and then you learn to almost embrace it. So like now I search for those opportunities where I'm like, I know nothing about this and I want to, and I'll throw myself right in the deep end of it to understand it. And I think like that's something you kind of, I don't know, some people probably don't want to do that. I'm someone that like, I love that, but I never used to. So
yeah, I mean that baptism by fire term, I say it specifically because that's exactly how I, like early career, that's what I was doing. 100%. Like I would seek, I went, I was in my first like 4 DevOps roles. Well, it wasn't starting, it was customer support first, as most do. Customer support, sysadmin, DevOps, pretty generic. Once I'd max out my attention in one of them, I'd be like, I can't really stretch myself anymore here. So I would pivot to a completely different place. Like, let's go to a place that's completely self-hosted on physical machines and see how that works. Now I'm dealing with having to rotate backup tapes physically every night and stuff, and it's all a whole nother like realm.
I think that's like I think that's kind of like a common trait though, right? Like you're one of these people that likes a challenge like I do. You're like, all right, I've kind of, because that's the other thing. There's the whole, I mean, I'll completely balk the saying up here, but there's this whole like concept of you need to surround yourself with people that are going to like help you grow, right? And there's no point in being the biggest fish in the pond if you know, one of them sort of things. Otherwise, you can't. Not saying that we are the biggest, but it's that kind of concept of like you need to surround yourself with other people that are also with that same kind of like, right, how do we push this further? How do we push
there was my early career I was in the army. That again is another stream. But there was a term there where it was like you could be an eagle amongst pigeons or a pigeon amongst eagles. Whenever people talked about like attempting to step up in their career and go to like a specialist unit, people were saying it the other way around. It was like, well, you could stay here and be an eagle amongst pigeons, or you could take yourself out and become that pigeon amongst the eagles and be the weaker one, but then eventually you'll become the eagle, right? That's the whole point. If you surround yourself by them so much, what's it? Osmosis? Is that the special word for it?
Something like that, yeah.
That's a clever word, yeah.
I would have to go and look all these up after. But yeah, like, and the ideal is that you're like, flock of eagles or whatever the hell the cumulative term for eagles is. But I think that's where I was kind of struggling with. When I left, I was like, what do I want to do next? Like, really, what do I want to do? I did a little bit of just straight up engineering for a while, and then I really fought on it for ages because I was like, I just don't know anymore, and I'm not just going to jump into something. And then, funny enough, my manager now I've known for a few years through online communities, but I knew him anyway. And I just pinged him one day and said, look, I know you've got this need for a developer experience engineer. What does it entail? Like, what kind of thing are you looking for? And I'm sort of and ahhing on whether I think it's the right thing for me. And we just had a conversation around it, really. And then I was like, do you know what? The more I think about it, the more it sounds right up my street. And it's really strange because, it's completely different to how I expected anything to work out. So I kind of, don't get me wrong, I thought it'd be cool to work at Vercel, but it exceeded everything I thought, which is like a bonus, And then all the people you get to work with, like there's some, people, it gets shared about online, our Friday demo days. People often say like, oh my gosh, Vercel's internal demo days on a Friday is incredible. It is. Every week we have an hour slot on a Friday afternoon where people demo stuff internally, and it's ridiculous. Like some of the things, like, so the talent pool is insane, and it's just really cool. It's just a really cool place to work. And now I get to do like a sort of a hybrid, but the way it works is I kind of like silo my way into like the things I want to work on, because that's kind of like encouraged. Like, what kind of things do you really want to work on? Like, I like working on like UI, UX, the experience side of things. So that's what I typically end up spending a lot of time on. But I do get to dabble occasionally in writing and stuff like that, and it's just really good. But it's been a weird journey to get there, I guess. So
I think it would be interesting if people started hiring like just value engineers. Like they would just come in and provide value, like wherever. Like I am just a person who is good at things, and I'll just provide the company value. And I wonder if the role you're at now is, well, I guess I'll ask you, is it what you thought Google would be? Because this one sounds like a much sharper version. You said Google was quite blurred.
Yeah, I think because the boundaries for me are much clearer on this one, in a sense. I don't know. It's kind of odd because I think because I do a lot of like outside work stuff, right? I make a lot of demos and I do a lot of like CSS and UI kind of stuff, and that's always been my outside like learning thing that I've done, and people sort of have grown to sort of potentially know me for, and that's why I've been invited to various conferences and things to speak about. Is like, it's not my work specifically. I mean, for a lot of them it was, but like since then it's been, well, we know you because you do XY animation or some UI thing, like come and speak about it. So those lines were kind of blurred then, because it's like, right, what is it that I'm working on that's like spec or Google related, and what is it that I'm doing for my own thing? Whereas now it's like, well, I'm working on Vercel and I'm doing Vercel stuff, but the benefit here is like I bring in those skills that I've picked up from outside to use them inside, and then we try and make everything better. But there's never any like, I don't know, it's just for me, it's just, yeah, the environment I work in now is just way more suited.
I feel like I have a question that I want to know as well. So I'll take the opportunity to ask you. You mentioned at Google that it can get quite exhausting because you were in like a DevRel kind of department position there where you were kind of online all the time. Like you were working.
Yeah, I think that's a bit self-inflicted, to be honest. Yeah, in hindsight, I'd say it was pretty a bit self-inflicted. I think, I don't know, I feel like it's just, yeah, without going too into the weeds on that, because it could quite easily, there's just a lot, it's just a lot different. At the end of the day, like, it's still a big corporate company.
Yeah.
And that's something that's maybe not, I don't know, maybe it's not seen that way massively on the outside, and then when you get inside, it's like, oh, okay. But it's yeah, I think it's just a very different type of role. That was the thing. Like, it was a very different sort of thing. And I think the thing that people struggle with, especially in like developer relations thing, is how do you measure it? Like, how do you?
Well, yeah.
How do you know if it's? How do you know you did a good job? How? 14 people clapped at your conference talk. How do you put that on an investor sheet, right? So it's like, it's kind of like, yeah, it's different. Whereas now it's like, say, one of the bigger features I worked on recently is search, right? Search across the entire Vercel platform. So like search that encompasses V0, Turbo, Next, and Vercel docs all under one thing, right? And that's like a tangible thing I can see. I built it and there it is. And then you can see people use it, and we get ideas from it. Like, it's actual results. Whereas like DevRel's very, I still feel like DevRel is such a subjective thing to put metrics on, right? Everyone has a different opinion of what is successful. And I think especially in that area, it's really tough to get like people to try stuff out, to get everyone to try stuff out, especially in like the CSS and UI space, because until everything's fully supported, people aren't so willing to use it anyway. So it's like, it's really tricky. I don't know, it's just a tough area to work in, I think.
Well, it sounds like you've this whole journey that you've like described, it sounds like there was a couple of key points where you like massively matured in your like professional life, and
potentially now I'd say we're still trying to get there.
But I mean, like you mentioned how the potential burnout at Google was self-inflicted, and I say potential burnout, it does sound like it was a little bit of burnout. It sounds like you could very easily do that now, but you know not to.
Yeah, I definitely feel it creep. I was feeling it a bit last couple of months and this is why I've kind of said to people, because I still get approached to do like, hey, come speak at X, and I'm like, it's not happening anymore. Unless like there's some real big reason, or like, I hate to say it, but like, unless there's a big check, because the amount of work that goes into them, and I don't know, it's just my style of doing it. I find it really hard, like mentally, to sort of time box. Like, as soon as I guess it's like that kind of ADHD style kind of thing where I know I've got a conference talk coming. So in my head, like, I'm now reserved mentally for that until it's gone. And it's like, as soon as I've finished, it's like a big weight off. And I'm like, and the time up to it is like stressful, and my health takes a decline physically and mentally. And then afterwards, it's like, great. And after the last one, I was like, that's it. Like, I don't think I think I've done enough of them to like. The funny thing with them was it was always just a case of like, do you know what'd be great? I'd love to have a go at public speaking one time just to see if I could do it. And I did it, and then I end up continually doing it. And it's like I don't really need to do it. So,
I mean, you've got the nice profile pictures now. You've got the board.
That's the main reason for doing it, right?
Yeah. And you got the nice border things behind you. I mean, you're right. Like you did it, and I understand what you're saying about the pressure, like self-inflicted pressure of doing things, especially doing things that are completely self-inflicted. Like right?
I'm terrible for it. I'm really, really bad at it. And that's something like I miss being better at. And that's something I'm trying to get better at now. I actually see you posting, you've been doing like some kind of like calisthenics thing.
Yeah, I've been running like 10K a day and stuff. And I tell you what, I'm not standing up off this chair after this.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And that's where I want to get back to. So like before, when I would do contracting things and I was less online, because that's not something we really talk about. Like I didn't really get into the whole the everything platform until the pandemic.
Yeah.
And that's when I've had an account since like 2014, but there was nothing really posted there. I just like, and then I got into it, and that hooks you as well. And then the conferences, and then everything, my physical and mental just took a big decline. And I used to be like every day calisthenics, on the bike, in the gym, and everything, like all this online stuff was the least priority for me. It was like, get my work done, make sure I do a good job on that, get in the gym every day, eat well, hop on Call of Duty. But
hey, I'm the same. I'm work, go for a run now to prepare myself, and then I'm on League of Legends straight away.
See, and that's what I'm trying to get back to. I'm trying to get back to like, hey, just prioritize my people, me, my work, my physical health, and then worry about everything else after. And I'm trying to flip it back around, because for me, I'm just so mentally like easily swayed into like, oh, I'm doing it all around the wrong way, and that's where I'm at, which is unfortunate. But hopefully, I'll kind of fix it. Big kick for me is like the soccer season will start soon, and so I have to get fit. Like so I've been like on it every day for the last few weeks. The food prep stuff comes, that's way better. Like everything's
I'm trying Huel for the first time. I've got like a month's supply of Huel coming in like 2 days.
I've done that one. I'm starting
it, so we'll see.
I'm doing Simmer at the moment. That's my one.
Okay, yeah, I've been marketed to a lot by them, so maybe I'll try it.
Yeah, well, I kept getting marketed, and I was like, do you know what? We're just going to do it, because our Deliveroo bill is ridiculous. So, so it's like, right, we're going to have to do that. So, yeah.
Well, I would love to do another stream at some point. We can discuss things a bit more casually, more. And hey, the mental health stuff's important, I think.
We just do a part 2. It's fine.
We'll do a part 2. Awesome. Well, we're at time now, but I've took an hour of your day, and we've mentioned about time boxing and being important. So I'm super thankful that you've come to share.
It's all good.
Is there anything that you want to plug in like the next 20 seconds?
That's another thing we could talk about. Another whole thing. I'm not really a marketer. I don't know how I've managed to sort of plug a few things, but it's not like people keep saying, make a course, do the course, and I'm like, I don't know how to market it, and I don't know how to build one, because I'd want to build one that I'd want to use, which I find really hard, because we go back to that whole like, you learn how you wanted to learn. So I'm like, I've got a call about potential course stuff tomorrow. We'll see how that goes. But
well, hey, that was my stream podcast first. I heard that course talks are happening.
Exclusive.
That's the one. Cool. Right, Jhey, thanks a lot for your time. And
you're welcome.
I'm going to press end now. So